news from across the Federation, spanning the region and covering the globe. This is the Kyssfm SKN News Now Evening Edition, your one true source for news. And now your presenter.
Good evening. Today is Monday, 22nd February 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. I am your presenter, Kenny James. In the headlines tonight, nationally, 8 honorees awarded for their stellar contribution to national building in St. Kitts and Nevis. Internationally, Ethiopia says state of emergency will last 6 months. And in sports, West Indies dedicate win to regional cricket. We have the details of these stories, the weather and Carib updates still all ahead in the SKN News Now Evening Edition. At an auspicious investiture ceremony held under the patronage of His Excellency Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton at Government House on February 21, 2018, 8 honorees were recognized for their stellar contribution to different sectors of society. The awardees recognized were Mr. Jax Kramer, Mrs. Agnes Morton, Mr. Arthur Evelyn, Mr. Calvin Ferrier, Mr. Melvin James, Mr. Alvis Dyer, Mr. Samuel Powell, and Mr. Elmo Liebert. Mr. Jax Kramer was awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for his contribution to commerce and public service. Mr. Kramer is a charter member of the St. Kitts Rotary Club from its inception in 1969 and has been a keen promoter of national development. He also is one of the founders of the TDC group of companies. Mrs. Agnes Morton was awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for her contribution to education and voluntary service. Mrs. Morton began her career as an educator in 1943 and retired from the civil service in 1986. A period of 43 years of service. She was also one of the founding members of the Business and Professional Association in 1975 and served as president from 1981 to 1983. Mr. Arthur Evelyn was awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for his contribution to public service, community activism. Mr. Evelyn has served the business community for many years as a registered pharmacist and opened his drugstore in 1946. Mr. Evelyn also served extensively in community life, having been a founding member of the Nevis Turf and Jockey Club, an active contributor and a member of the Mental Health Association, Culturama, the Lions Club, the Blind, Light and Visually Impaired Society, and the St. Paul's Anglican Church, Vistry. Mr. Calvin Ferrier was awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for his contribution to education and public service in the years 1980 to 1995. Mr. Ferrier was promoted to the post of Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and took initiative for government to acquire lands from private owners and the Anglican Church for the establishment of the Sandy Point Primary School, while continuing the thrust for the establishment of the College of Further Education. He also assisted in the establishment of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Response Agency and attended its meetings throughout CARICOM, Cuba, and Haiti. Mr. Melvin James was awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for his contribution to culture, local, regional, and international credit union. Mr. James was an avid writer and a drummer and is a founding member of the Okola Tegramanti Art Theatre in St. Kitts in 1973. He also held a regional position of Director of Training and Development with the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions in Barbados. The Medal of Honor was awarded to Mrs. Alvis Dyer for her contribution to education and community service. Mrs. Dyer had a 41-year teaching career in the Federation. She also served as Vice President of the Nevis Cooperative Credit Union and as a Commissioner of the Nevis Girl Guides. The Medal of Honor was awarded to Mr. Samuel Powell for his contribution to agriculture and music. Mr. Powell worked hard as a technician at the Caribbean Agriculture Research and Development Institute from 1988 to 2000 and as a director from 2000 to 2006. Mr. Powell is also a musician and played in many bands in Nevis and also played the organ at the Gingerland Methodist Church for 49 years. He is a member of the Jeff Small Grants Program, which seeks to assist groups to formulate and implement different community projects. The Medal of Honor was awarded to Mr. Elmo Liebert and his contribution to education and public service. Mr. Liebert served in the Ministry of Education and Agriculture for a combined period of 39 years. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, while giving tribute to the awardees, said, "These National Honors Awards recognize especially meritorious contributions to our nation, and with today's investiture, we place these honorees on a pedestal as shining examples of all the remarkable things that can be achieved when we heed the call of greatness." In other news, in a statement to the people, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party chastised the government led by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris and their efforts to change the constitution specifically to impose term limits on the role of Prime Minister. The bill saw its first reading in the House yesterday. According to the SKNLP, in their statement, which was released yesterday, February 21st, stated that Dr. Harris and his government does not have the ability to change the Constitution willy-nilly, as they must receive support of 2/3 of all representatives in the local parliament. An excerpt from their release reads, Dr. Timothy Harris knows that he does not and cannot command the necessary support to change one iota of the Constitution of our beloved country. He and his government cannot and will not on their own determine the length of the term of service of any elected representative of any other constitutional provision for that matter. The Labour Party alleged that the Prime Minister's intention is to utilize the House of Parliament as a political tool to further his agenda, deception, and to confuse and exploit the public for his personal political gain. The party further noted that they will only participate in any effort of constitutional reform if 1. There is Constitutional Reform Commission properly established for that purpose, 2. There is proper representation of all bona fide political parties on such Constitutional Reform Commission, and 3. The constitutional reform process is geared towards looking more broadly and holistically at improving the systems of democratic governance of our federation. Delegates from several CARICOM member states, the Organization of American States, and the European Union are in St. Kitts to brainstorm and formulate strategies on drug abuse and its prevention that will be implemented in countries across the Caribbean region. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Osmond Petty, welcomed the participants during an opening ceremony on Wednesday, February 21st, and noted that this is the second of a two-part workshop that began last Monday. The first was held on February 19th and 20th and was dubbed the CARICOM Regional Drug Demand Reduction Strategy Workshop. This was followed by Wednesday's OAS Regional National Drug Strategy Workshop, which ends on Thursday, February 22nd. Both meetings were held at the Ocean Terrace Inn. Mr. Petty highlighted the challenges posed by the illegal use of marijuana and the trafficking of narcotics, and said the leadership in the local Ministry of National Security was looking forward to receiving suggestions and plans to address the myriad issues that St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean region face from the challenges of drugs. Beverly Reynolds of the CARICOM Secretariat also welcomed the dialogue and added that it was important to update current strategies in the Caribbean and to support their design and development. She encouraged participants to think outside the box in coming up with the solutions and to bear in mind the value of inclusiveness and collaboration, developing effective strategies they're implementing. Vice Chairman of the National Drug Council, Dennis Michael Morton, saluted the regional directors and decision makers for their commitment in the fight against drugs, which contributes to the overall safety, security, and well-being of the respective people and their nations. Daunting though the task may be, we continue to remain hopeful that through meetings and actions such as this one, we will one day deliver the fruits of our hard work and commitment, he said. Mr. Morton added that our citizens deserve a society that's not controlled by drug use, abuse, trafficking, violence, and crime. The Vice Chairman thanked the CARICOM Secretariat, EU, and OAS for contributing to the hosting of the workshop. Stay tuned, still to come international news, sports, the weather, and Carib updates. A state of emergency imposed in Ethiopia a day after the Prime Minister resigned will last for 6 months. The Defense Minister said on Saturday as authorities sought to tamp down unrest in Africa's second most populous nation. Outbreaks of violence had continued in parts of the country, and the government was banging protests along with the preparation and dissemination of publications that could incite and sow discord, Defense Minister Sarai Fagasa told reporters. The government has previously made several efforts to curtail violence, but lives have continued to be lost, many have been displaced, and economic infrastructure has been damaged, he said. Prime Minister Haile Mariam announced his surprise resignation in a televised speech on Thursday, the first time in modern Ethiopian history that a sitting prime minister had quit, he said. He wanted to smooth the way for reforms. A day later, the government imposed a state of emergency. Parliament, where the four-party ruling coalition controls all 547 seats, is expected to ratify it within 2 weeks. Ethiopia is East Africa's biggest and fastest growing economy and a Western ally in the fight against the Islamist militants, but rights groups often criticize the government for clamping down on political opponents and the media. The demonstrations began against the government plan to expand the capital Addis Ababa, but then mortified into great demands for civil rights. The government previously imposed a state of emergency in October 2016, which was lifted in August 2017 during that time. Curfews were in place, movements were restricted, and about 29,000 people were detained. Stay tuned, still to come sports, the weather, and Carib updates. After West Indies beat England Lions in the second test at Sabina Park to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series, the home team's captain, Kieran Powell, has dedicated the triumph to regional cricket and its supporters. The A-team completed a convincing inning, a 17-run victory on Tuesday's third day of the 4-day contest, to pile misery on the visitors, who lost the opening unofficial test by 2 wickets last week at Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium. It's a very good win for the West Indies. At any time we win in a series, whether it's international or at the team level, it bodes well with the Caribbean cricket and for the confidence of Caribbean players and the Caribbean, Powell 27 said during a post-game interview. Victory was set up over the first 2 days after West Indies dismantled England Lions for 145 in their first innings after winning the toss and sending them to take first strike. Left-arm finger spinner Jamel Warrican, 25, took a first-class career best 8 for 34. The home team's batting reply was 422 all out, with Jamar Hamilton making 100 and Raymond Rafer 95 leading the way. The Lions' left-arm finger spinner Jack Leach snared 6 for 138. Warrican, an off-break bowler, Raheem Cornwell then took 4 wickets and each to dismiss the Lions for 206 in their second innings. We knew it was going to be easy. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. We knew the English weren't going to come and surrender and just let us beat them while they were frustrated by the tail-enders. But having said that, we still had a day of cricket left, and if necessary, so to be able to pull off an inning victory should just show how much control we had over the game, he said. It's a good win against the England Lions, but we still got another game to play, Powell cautioned, looking for the final test at Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua, which starts on Monday. The Englishmen could look at how their batting fell short, especially in the first innings, albeit on a surface that offered grip and turn on a day one, and how the bowling is generally lacked energy and penetration outside the fabulous Leach. Potentially there is criticism and our bowlers and our batters, but at the end of the day, we are a team, we are in this scrap together, and as a unit, you're going to make sure you're pulling each one over the line. Together we need to scrap, and we haven't done that quite well enough, was a 24-year-old skipper Keaton Jennings' take on what led to the loss. Warwickon was pleased with his 12-wicket haul that won him the Man of the Match award for a second straight game after previously starring and batting the balls in Trelawney, but it's not ready to relent against the struggling visitors. It was a very good bowling performance that put the team in a very good position to win the series, so I'm happy with that. I have to be patient and be disciplined and continue to do the basics. On another note, West Indies is gearing up to play a T20 series in Texas. The West Indies cricket team are set to play a T20 international in the city of Houston, Texas for the first time later this year as a part of a Tri-Nation series involving Pakistan and Bangladesh. The series scheduled for August had been finalized following discussions between the Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman Najam Sethi and Cricket West Indies President Dave Cameron on the sidelines of the recent International Cricket Council meeting in Dubai. The series will also see matches also played in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It is a reciprocal tour that follows from the highly anticipated 3-match tour carded for March or April when Pakistan is expected to host the Caribbean side. So far, every T20 international played on United States soil has been staged at the Central Broward Regional Park Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, and the most recent action being a 2-match series between the Windies and India 2 years ago. The proposal for a match to be hosted in the southern United States represents a further incursion into the lucrative North American market. Only last year, the PCB had announced a 5-year agreement that would have seen the Windies tour Pakistan annually for a 3-match T20 series, with Pakistan contesting. Meanwhile, the PCB have finalized the dates for the upcoming Windies tour, with matches scheduled for March 29th and 31st and April 1st. The PCB is hoping to have international tours of Pakistan resume following an 8th-year break after the Sri Lanka team was attacked by militants on its way to the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore back in 2009. And now we take a look at the weather in today's weather forecast. Fresh to strong winds will keep seas hazardous across the region, resulting in a negative impact on marine activities. The winds will also be a source of disruption at times and cause the atmosphere to be weakly unsettled, resulting in variable cloudy skies and brief showers. This will be evident across the Windward Islands, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago due to the proximity of an upper-level low-pressure system. Therefore, skies over St. Kitts and Nevis today will be cloudy with brief showers, while tonight we'll see a 70% or high chance of brief showers. The winds are east-northeast at 17 to 25 miles per hour, occasionally higher in some places, and gusting to near 35 miles per hour at times. The winds will start to decline later today. Seas are moderate to rough with significant wave heights of 2.5 meters. 2.5 to 3.5 meters or 8 to 12 feet, occasionally reaching 4.5 meters or 15 feet. Small craft Operators should stay in port, and beachgoers should avoid the waters in the northern sides of the islands and exercise caution elsewhere. That ends tonight's edition of the SKN News Now. Now for a recap of your top stories. Nationally, 8 honorees awarded for their stellar contribution to nation building in St. Kitts and Nevis. Internationally, Ethiopia says state of emergency will last 6 months. And in sports, West Indies dedicate win to regional cricket. I've been your presenter, Kenny James. Stay tuned. Carib Update is up next.